Good day. Today we're going to be talking about the New Age, Ireland, Irish Catholicism, and even going into a bit of Irish nationalism. But the first thing I need to say is we have something of a new departure because today I'm joined by a very special guest who just happens to be my beloved wife, Kim.
Hello, everybody.
So it's my privilege to introduce Kim, but before I get to that, we have plans for the future of this channel. We hope to be increasing the output of content, and we also want to make an appeal for those of you who might find that valuable to our new Buy Me a Coffee page. You'll find a link down below for that if you could consider buying us a coffee. I also want to say that we are looking at doing a member program for people who might like to support us on a regular basis. Details still to be announced about that, but there will be some kind of premium exclusive content for those of you who think you could support us in that way. But now to come to you, Kim. Yeah, this is something of a strange new departure. As we've been talking about doing this, I find myself in something of a quandary that, at one level, what we're going to be talking about today will obviously reflect our day-to-day way of conversing with each other, reflect something of the intimacy we share. At another level, it will necessarily have something of an artificial construct to it as well. But yes, Kim and I do speak about regularly many of the things that I discuss on this channel. We speak about the backgrounds that we've come from because we both come from a New Age background. Obviously, we speak about our Catholic faith and the Catholic Church and the crisis in the church today. We speak about other subjects like Valentin Tomberg. We speak about our life in Europe, our experience in Europe, our lives. We've been married 25 years. It's our 25th anniversary this year. And so obviously there's a lot of things that we have in parallel, that we've lived in parallel in a kind of journey from the New Age to conversion to Christianity, to conversion to the Catholic Church, and moving ever more deeply into Catholic tradition and appreciation of the issues threatening the Church today. So all that I share with you, Kim. And last but not least, Ireland. Catholic Ireland. And dare I say, the mystery of this ancient Christian Ireland that haunts both of us. Christian, Catholic Ireland. But rather than dwell on that all right now, what I really want to do is pay tribute to you. So much of what I say on this show owes to you. In one episode, I called you my secret weapon. I owe so many insights and thoughts to you over the years as we have contemplated these things together. That said, I also need to say that as much as we have many things in parallel, you have, if I may dare to say it, your own brilliance pertaining to things that I am really lacking in. Here I would include some of your sensitivities to the liturgy, really a kind of profound interior awareness and awareness of saints like Venerable Anna Katerina Emmerich. So we do have these differences as well. But you have helped my content immeasurably. It draws on your insight, and I'm more grateful than I can possibly say. And of course, last but not least, I'm unbelievably grateful for all your prayers over the years. You have a prayer life which in so many ways puts mine to shame. And I'm thrilled that you are now going to come forth and bring forth things that you have to say about this parallel journey that we've been on that forms the basis of this channel. Without further ado, I'm just going to start bringing up questions, and I think the natural place to begin is to ask you, dear Kim, to tell us about your life, tell us where you come from, tell us about your conversion.
There is one enormous place that we are not parallel. I came from an atheist background. You never experienced anything like that. Your father taught you the Our Father as a child. He may not have been a formal Christian, but he introduced you to the Bible. Whereas my parents were completely separated from their Christian upbringing, as I have said on my videos. And that, of course, presents a difficulty in finding one's true place in the world as a spiritual being. And I struggled with that. I was unable, yes, to place myself. And for years I lived in a very secular, atheistic way, knowing in some part of me that there was something far greater that I was not aware of. But I can only see that in retrospect. And then in my 20s, I went through a trauma that led me into quite a debilitating illness. And during that illness, something began to awaken in me that pulled me out of the atheistic world I've been living in. I started to meditate. A friend of mine encouraged me to do certain things that, yes, New Age things.
So just to be clear, you mean by that like meditation practices or maybe visualization practices or affirmations or all these kind of little rituals that New Agers like you and I used to be do? That's the kind of thing you're talking about?
Something like that, yes. And as you know very well, and as you've written about, you called the New Age, or you likened the New Age to a smorgasbord, or a cafeteria, where you can pick and choose whatever you want and put it together to make your own practice. And there's this idea that goes around in New Age circles that we all have our own truths, that's almost like a personal subjective truth that is different from everybody else's truth because you've made it yourself. Now, I think it's a bit more complex than that, but I'm trying to simplify things here. And so I developed my own practice of, it became absolutely necessary for me to get through the day. I was so unwell, both physically and emotionally, that I needed to sit just in silence. I wasn't doing any sort of visualization or formal practice. I just literally sat in silence. And then I also needed to say to myself about hundreds of affirmations that I'm okay. Looking into a mirror, there's this lady called Louise Hay, and she's a very simple New Age writer who developed this whole way of affirming yourself. I am this, and I am this, and I am beautiful, and I am powerful, and if you think about it, it just starts to sort of almost pump you up. And that comes to a point. Power. This is another idea within the New Age, that you need to reclaim your power. You need to step into your power. And when I hear this now, I find it almost like an attack. Like, when I became Christian, I saw how Christianity is about surrender. It's not about gaining power and being powerful and creating your own reality from your own power. It's about surrendering yourself to God. Surrendering your heart, surrendering your will, surrendering your mind, so that God is your power, not yourself. And when Roger and I ran, when you and I ran the Cambridge Centre, the New Age Centre in Cambridge.
Yeah, maybe I just come in quickly, love, to say that maybe not everyone will know what you mean when you speak about a New Age Centre or even a New Age Centre in Cambridge. Maybe here is the place to say that I, long ago, played a part in setting up a New Age Centre in Cambridge, based on the inspiration of Findhorn, where I had been a member. And what I mean by New Age Centre is that it was a little place in the town centre. It had a room where people could come and meditate. It had a sort of walk-in space, a library of New Age books, and we also ran little seminars and workshops and little events from this place as well. And I'm actually also going to amplify what I just said about Findhorn. Father Malachi Martin spoke of Findhorn in Scotland as the Vatican City of the New Age movement. Now, there's definitely some hyperbole there, but I would say there's a grain of truth to it as well. We're not going to go into that right now, but it's a very, very key and influential part of the New Age movement, to say the very least. And I was a member there 3 years, or close to 3 years. Oddly enough, I'm going to be returning to Findhorn soon. So we're going to be, talking more about Findhorn in episodes coming up. I'm even hoping to film an episode at Findhorn. We'll see how that works out. But right now, yes, Findhorn, as I said, I played a part in setting this charity up in Cambridge, registered charity, to promote the New Age. I spoke about this in my Celtic Connections interview on this channel. I think it's episode 13, Celtic Connections, EWT interview. Yeah, that's part of the backstory here. And yeah, I should just say that I didn't do this alone. There was another very, very special person from Findhorn who helped me, and indeed other influential figures at Findhorn played a part in this as well. But yeah, I think that maybe that helps to explain that after all these years that you've been doing these New Age affirmations, looking into the mirror, telling yourself you were beautiful and so on and so forth, and maybe also you haven't mentioned it here, but certain kinds of kind of more pagan as practices of the New Age, things like that you've spoken about in your episode about your conversion. After you've been doing these kinds of things, you walked into this centre, New Age Centre in Cambridge, and that's where we met all those years ago.
Yes, that's right. And one day I was in that New Age Centre, and a young man came in, a Christian, and he started questioning me, and he said to me something that really surprised me. It made no sense to me. I thought he was crazy. He said, for me, or rather he said for us, because his wasn't a personal, subjective truth. His was an objective truth, that God is a person. that shocked me because it made no sense. And in my own New Age conviction, I therefore thought he was stupid.
Yes, New Agers are all about a concept of God that is impersonal. It's a concept, as I've said in many times on this channel, it ultimately draws from the East. And New Agers really can't even begin to compute the idea that God became a person or that God is personal.
And when we were confirmed into the Catholic Church on Easter 2000, I realised what that young man had said. Not as a belief, because I already had come to that from my conversion. So I wasn't being confirmed into the Catholic Church without believing Jesus was incarnate and God became man. No. But when we were confirmed into the Catholic Church, I realised at a personal level now, Jesus was my personal friend, just as he's everybody's personal friend. And as my personal friend, I could begin to make a relationship with him. And I have come to love him more than I can say. My heart hurts with that love. And before we began today here, I was just over the road at the chapel we have here, just 2 minutes walk over the road. Before the Blessed Sacrament, I am with him each day in that chapel, and I can't tell you how much he has transformed me from that person wanting power to somebody who wants to love.
Yes, that's very, very moving to hear, love, and obviously it's been my privilege to watch you change over all these years. I remember, what we both were like, 30 years ago when we first met in that New Age centre in Cambridge. And I see where we are now. The chapel that you just mentioned, not everyone will know this, but we have the fortune to live just across from a simple little humble Irish chapel in the north of Ireland. The door is always open in the daytime, so we can go and sit there by the Blessed Sacrament, but you are the one that goes there, day in, day out, day in, day out, praying, in this chapel by the Blessed Sacrament. And again, I repeat myself, but I feel your prayers, and I am so helped by your prayers. And again, a point I would make is that no one ever tells us that you listen to New Age. In the New Age, just to come back to what you said, it's kind of like, I am powerful, I am great, I am beautiful, I am this. So you've gone from that to talking and praying to Jesus Christ, as well as, of course, Our Lady.
And we were so fortunate with our confirmation, our being brought into the Catholic Church, because we found a priest, we were introduced to a priest by your good friend.
We'd moved to Germany, in large measure due to Valentin Tomberg. I've talked about on other episodes. We had a strange journey which led us to a priest, Catholic priest in Germany who was fond of Valentin Tomberg, and he was the one who actually took us both into the Catholic Church. Before that, we had both been baptized as Anglicans and actually married in the Anglican Church as well.
Yeah. And Father Vorreichle, he was very fond of the Latin Mass. He spoke about it all the time. So that awoken a curiosity in me, but we'll come to that later. He himself celebrated the Novus Ordo, but it was very beautiful. And we were brought into the faith with this great praying priest. He had great devotion to Our Lady, and we learnt the Rosary, and we were with this little community. We also were introduced to some sisters who we lived very close to, a group of nuns.
Yes, this was in Switzerland.
Yes, that's right. We were confirmed on the small island in the Rhine, Rheinau, founded by Saint Fintan from Ireland in the 8th century. And then the sisters also were in Switzerland. But it was when we were living in Ireland that my prayer life really flourished. The Irish know prayer. They live it, they breathe it in a way I have never experienced in our travels and our living in England, Wales, in France, Spain, in Switzerland, Germany. I have never experienced anything like the Irish when it comes to prayer. And something I've not said is that for much of my life as a Catholic, I've gone to daily Mass. And when we were living in south of Dublin, the little group at the church we were going to would pray the Rosary after Mass. And a lady took me under her wing and she taught me all the prayers, because I was praying the Rosary myself, but I wasn't praying the additional prayers, the Memorare and the St. Michael prayer, the prayer to the guardian angel. And also there was a couple in that prayer group, Sean and Josie, and Sean would pray the litany of the Blessed Virgin at the end of each of our rosaries. And this litany, it's like heaven itself. Everything that Our Lady is seems to be expressed in that litany. All her titles, her nature, and it was almost as though she was showering petals from heaven upon us as Sean was praying the Litany of the Blessed Virgin. And this is part of my daily prayer, that litany. I pray it actually going to sleep, because it's a bit like falling asleep in Our Lady's arms.
Yeah, I want to come in here, and I almost don't want to interrupt your testimony to the life of prayer, but somehow I just want to give people a little bit of context here. So we left Switzerland, and we were in England, and we were in Wales, and we finally came to Ireland. This is something like 20 years ago, you know, when Ireland was less secular and materialistic than she is now, as she's tragically become. And it was our privilege then, you know, living in, you know, rural Ireland in a couple of places, County Clare, also County Wicklow near Dublin, to meet these very elderly Irish. So, you know, they might have been 70 or 80 back then. This means that they had really known Catholic Ireland when they were young. And they had these, you know, well, you've testified to them much better than I could, and I think, Kim, in your heart, you were more awake to who these people were. But you could feel this immense legacy of the prayer of Catholic Ireland, and it's touched you, and it's touched our hearts forever.
Yes. Yes. The Irish people, I've never met a nation like them. They want to help, and I think what I've been saying about prayer, how the Irish live prayer, it comes through because of their open hearts. The prayer seems to be what is expressed through this wanting to help, this openness of heart, and this very communitarian way that they live, like a big family.
Yeah, I just want to come in here and echo you, Kim. I mean, obviously, what you're speaking now, this profound communitarian spirit in Ireland, this very striking willingness to help, wish to help others. This is now obviously being, threatened by globalist culture everywhere. Dare I say, I've said this in previous episodes about Ireland. I often think globalism is a euphemism, because what's really mattering here in Ireland is the kind of Anglo-American capitalist culture above all others. But we were astonished when we came here, just astonished by the communitarian spirit that exists in Ireland, which, as far as I can see, goes hand in hand with what you're speaking about, Irish prayerfulness, and, as I've said in my own episodes on Ireland, the intense engagement with the sacraments. The Eucharist, the Rosary, all of this has left effects on Ireland. There is this incredibly moving communitarian spirit. I find people are skeptical of this when we say this. Many Irish may not really realise, that other people in other countries are really very different. The French or the Swiss, other countries, they don't have this, communitarian spirit. Not like this. They have other great qualities. I celebrate, for example, the French resistance to, yes, Anglo-American capitalism, the extent of resistance that is still there, and many other fine things. And, obviously the Irish also have their faults as well as any other people do, but there are these qualities of kindness, of helpfulness, of open-heartedness, and yes, prayerfulness.
Yeah, I have to say, I wrote a blog not too long ago where I mentioned how much I felt pain that my people, if you like, I'm English, I was born in northwest London, and pain is not even enough. The horror I feel at what the English have done in Ireland. There are 3 different texts I have been reading or have read about the horror of what the English, the British, have done to Ireland, to the Irish. One is by a woman, an academic from Cambridge, who I was very close to in Cambridge when we lived there, and she's done an excellent job. Now her perspective is incredibly different from mine, but she's from County Cork, and she wrote a book called Gonne, and she has given the most harrowing accounts of what was happening in County Cork during the famine and the coffin ships that the destitute Irish were forced to take to America and wherever. And then you, my darling, and I have been reading about Maud Gonne.
Maud Gonne. Just to be clear, not everyone will know Maud Gonne, but Maud Gonne has begun to become very important to me, and without holding you up too long, Kim, we should just say that Maud Gonne is mainly known in the context of being the muse of the Anglo-Irish poet W.B. Yeats and an early Irish revolutionary figure, but I'm finding certainly that she has much more going for her than simply being Yeats's inspiration. I hate to hold you up, but I wonder, at the risk of derailing you, if it's also worth pointing out that Yeats, you could almost say, was a New Ager well ahead of his time, in that he was involved in Theosophy, which is the 19th century precursor of today's New Age movement. par excellence. Also, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. He was a Hermeticist, but a pagan and non-Christian Hermeticist. And Maud Gonne rejects all of that. She saw Masonic connections with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. She didn't like that, and she turned to the Catholic Church. She entered the Church, and there is, I think, a certain parallel between Maud Gonne's journey from this kind of esoteric milieu in the 19th century and Valentin Tomberg's journey later on. I know I'm really going far from the point that you were with, but this, I think, will be important for future episodes, and I just wanted to clarify who this person is. Maud Gonne.
Thank you, love. But Maud Gonne, she was an English woman who, like I'm feeling in my heart, but it went far more with her into like she was acting on behalf of the destitute Irish. She heard a British officer speak about the death of an Irish woman who had been turned out of her home in order that she ought to learn a lesson.
Yeah, she saw staggering heartlessness there, at least on the parts of certain British, the poor Irish, deserved to be evicted, even to die, so they would learn their lesson.
And this propelled Maud Gonne into fighting for the Irish, and she put everything into it. So we've been reading about her, but there's also this beautiful, tragic, wonderful, delightful, horrendous novel that I have just finished called Knock-na-Gow by Charles J. Kickham, written in the late 1800s, bringing all the same themes.
Maybe I just say something about Knock-na-Gow as well,
please.
And then you can... Gosh, I didn't know we were going to be going into this. This is kind of like cutting-edge stuff that I haven't even spoken on in my own episodes yet, but we'll be coming to that. I am really in a process of diving into the 19th century Fenians, and I haven't yet finished Knock-na-Gow, but many people will not know this. Knock-na-Gow was the most beloved novel of Ireland in the 19th century. Again, the author, Charles J. Kickham. Michael Collins is said to have wept when he read Knock-na-Gow. It's nearly forgotten today, and even though you've completed the book, and I haven't yet finished it, I already consider it a masterpiece of Catholic Ireland. This Irish Fenian, Charles Kickham, was also a deeply devout Catholic. You can feel this in the book. And the book is like an amazing testimony to Irish village life at the time. Maybe I even just say this before you continue, Kim. Again, I didn't know we'd be talking about this. But we're living in a little village now, in County Tyrone, and we've been living here for a long time. We know the villagers. And in some ways, we're reading Charles Kickham capturing Irish village life, back in 1873, and we recognize it. We see that Ireland, for all its changes, is still Ireland. But anyway, I didn't know I was going to go into that because I wanted to give our listeners a notice of Knock-na-Gow. But let's get back to what you're really getting from Knock-na-Gow, love.
It's a condensed, powerful expression of who the Irish are, the wholesomeness of their Catholic faith, and how it lives within their family life. And they worked the land, or those who were wealthier, who were leaseholders, because they could not be landholders at that time.
Yeah, I think I should just insert a very small correction here, Kim, because what you're saying, in essence and in practice, contains tremendous truth. The Catholic Irish have been dispossessed of their land for centuries. They've been forced into a position of becoming leaseholders. But I think that by the time Knocknagow appeared in 1873, reforms had begun to appear. So maybe technically speaking, what you just said isn't entirely correct, but certainly you are reflecting the terrible, Irish oppression that happened over centuries. So essentially, you're pointing to something very important. But anyway, this is really diverting you from the main point, and the main point is what is evoked by this Irish masterpiece, Knocknagow.
It just shows the wholesomeness of what Ireland is. The prayers, the rollicking joy, even through the most terrible sufferings. And the Irish have suffered, and that's what the book really brings out, and that's what I'm saying pains me. But maybe as much as that pains me, I see the same spirit of persecution of that traditional Catholic Irish family life now coming from the Irish in government themselves.
The Irish elites, yeah, who are sort of copying the whole English model. Kickham would have been, people like Charles Kickham, people like Patrick Pearse were really saying there's something the English are controlling this nation in this way, and the Irish need to be in charge of their own land, their own culture that has been taken away from them. I didn't know I'd be going into this, and I want to hear from you, Kim, but it's like people like Charles J. Kickham or Patrick Pearse, Maud Gonne, would be turning in their graves, because we now have, I can't help but escape from thinking the Irish elites, they would just simply see them as copies of the English.
Exactly, the very same spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks my heart.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard 5 seconds of church bells. Those are actually the bells from the little Irish chapel across the road from us. But while you've heard 5 seconds, Kim and I have been, taking a little recess for 10-15 minutes and considering how to end this episode. And I know there's a little bit more, Kim, you want to say about Ireland and what we want to say about prayer and prayer for Ireland. But before we come to your final section about that, my love, I just want to say that this is an experiment, but I'm feeling happy with it. I think this is going to work. We're intending to keep doing episodes like this, where undoubtedly we will continue exploring the themes that we've been speaking about, such as from the nature of the New Age, with its idea of an impersonal God, to the very personal nature of the Catholic mystery. I'm sure we'll keep talking about Ireland and the mutual love we have of Ireland. We'll be bringing in other things though as well. I'm sure that we will be speaking about Catholic France. There's a whole story here that Kim's been intimating of our life over all these years. Not all of it's filled in. You can go look to some of Kim's other episodes if you're interested, where she speaks about her conversion experience and how she and I came to the faith. I'm sure we'll be filling more of that in for you as well. But there will be more. Kim has, as I intimated at the beginning, such a profound sensitivity to the liturgy. I wish I had it. I feel like a clod compared to you. You have taught me, Kim, so much about the liturgy and the importance of the Latin Mass. I'm sure we'll be speaking about that. We'll be speaking about other, beloved saints of yours, such as Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque and the devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I'm sure we'll also be speaking about Venerable Anna Katerina Emmerich. And I'm sure also, of course, there will be more about Valentin Tomberg, who has been such an integral part of our journey into the Catholic mystery. But without going on more about that, I just want to say, in terms of what you were saying about the heartbreaking condition of modern Ireland. Yes, it's part of my life as well as yours to ponder Ireland. Not only ponder what she was like 20 years ago when we first came, ponder what she's like today. Yes, go back to these 19th century texts, this incredible book, Knock-na-Gall. Go into Irish history. You and I have both come to the conviction that there is something very, very precious about the Irish and about Ireland. I'm very grateful to actually have your witness to this on this program. You know, how deeply these people and their culture has touched us and how this culture is being destroyed. But yes, I think now I just turn this over to you, love, for some final words, you know, that you want to say about this as well, and maybe whatever else you want to say.
Yes, Knock-na-Gall both opens one to what Ireland was before she became, I want to say, obliterated, and Knock-na-Gall opens one to the horror of what the Irish suffered at the hands of the British. And so it shows what Ireland is, because as far as I see, as far as I experience, having lived here for so long now, that the very land, the wind, it's like there's Christianity is in this land. It's what she is. And the people lived that. They lived the faith. And that seems to be her true nature. So Knock-na-Gall shows that. But it awakens the heart to want to pray for that more passionately. And that is what I am doing. And I want to say, please pray for Ireland. Please pray for the church. Please pray for the protection of the traditional Latin Mass. Please pray for the conversion of the bishops, the Pope. Please pray. Prayer is answered.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really don't know if I can say anything further to that. Indeed, all I'm going to say, because I think we need to say it, is that we are now seeking support through the Buy Me a Coffee program. And if you'd like to support what we're doing on this channel, please have a look at the link down below in the text. And again, we will be announcing things to do with a membership program where there will be premium and exclusive content, but that's not quite ready yet. So I just want to point to Buy Me a Coffee, and yeah, what's really important here is the Catholic mystery, Ireland, and Ireland losing the Catholic mystery in favour of the very kind of New Age culture that you and I used to inhabit. And that's partly why we're so passionate about this, that we see that this New Age culture that you and I once lived and breathed cannot hold a candle to what Catholic Ireland was, and I believe still is, underneath all of this.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm going to say now. I think that all that's left to be said, ladies and gentlemen, is thank you very much for listening. God bless you, and yes, I echo Kim. Pray for Ireland.
God bless.